The Poor People's Movement emerged as a grassroots effort to address systemic poverty and inequality. A significant historical example is the Poor People's Campaign, initiated in 1968 by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC. This campaign sought to unite marginalized communities across racial lines to demand economic justice, fair wages, decent housing, and access to education. Its most notable action, Resurrection City, was a protest encampment in Washington, D.C., symbolizing the persistence of poverty even in the wealthiest nations. However, the campaign faced a devastating setback with Dr. King's assassination on April 4, 1968. King had been the movement's moral and strategic leader, and his death left a void that was difficult to fill. Leadership passed to Ralph Abernathy, but without King's unifying vision and national influence, the campaign struggled to maintain momentum. Resurrection City, while a symbol of persistence, encountered logistical challenges and public backlash, ultimately being dismantled after 6 weeks. King's death also shifted public focus, as the nation grappled with unrest and racial tensions, which overshadowed the campaign's demands for systemic economic change. The movement's purpose remains rooted in challenging systemic inequality and advocating for policies that address the root causes of poverty rather than treating it as an individual failing. By mobilizing people directly affected by poverty, it amplifies their voices and demands structural changes to create a fairer society. Key issues include racial and economic justice, healthcare, affordable housing, and access to quality education. For example, the movement actively supports policies that promote equitable access to healthcare, such as universal healthcare coverage and the expansion of community health clinics. These movements rely heavily on direct action tactics, such as protests, sit-ins, and boycotts, to push for transformative change. Over time, the Poor People's Movement has evolved to address the intersectionality of poverty, considering the overlapping impacts of race, gender, disability, and climate change. This means recognizing that poverty disproportionately affects marginalized groups and that solutions must address the unique challenges faced by each community. For instance, the movement advocates for policies that address the specific needs of women facing poverty, such as affordable childcare and paid family leave. The Modern Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival led by Reverend Dr. William J. Barber II and Reverend Dr. Liz Theoharis, builds on this legacy. It focuses on systemic racism, ecological devastation, and militarism, amplifying the moral imperative for policy changes. This iteration of the movement highlights global concerns while emphasizing grassroots organizing and solidarity among marginalized groups. Looking forward, the Poor People's Movement is poised to continue evolving as it tackles emerging challenges like climate-driven economic displacement and the widening wealth gap. With advancements in technology, the movement may leverage digital platforms to reach larger audiences and organize more effectively. By centering the lived experiences of the poor and uniting diverse communities, it has the potential to drive systemic changes that address inequality on a global scale. Ultimately, the Poor People's Movement serves as a powerful reminder that the fight for economic justice requires constant vigilance and collective action.